Hello everyone and welcome to tonight's live stream. I hope that you are all doing well. Welcome. Just making sure my microphone and everything is working. We don't need another situation, but welcome everyone to the live stream. I hope that you are all doing well. Tonight we will be discussing, as you can see on the screen, Google Stadia. I thought that we could talk about it and possibly laugh at it just one more time. I always say that it's just one more time, then we see truly how many times we talk about it, because I do think it's an important topic to discuss. We're also going to be discussing Star Trek and some of the actors saying how they've really lost a lot of the momentum for just the movies, like the J.J. Abrams movies, and just how the actors, how they're feeling in general about Star Trek and about like Discovery and Picard and how they're feeling about the universe in general. We're also going to discuss Dead or Alive 6. Now, I've discussed Dead or Alive 6 quite a few times on the channel. Unfortunately, a lot of it has just been really bad news, really unfortunate circumstances with them, you know, their greedy microtransactions and just the way that they've acted in terms of, like, the characters, the females' costumes and whatnot. And I want to discuss how truly greedy they have become with some new, like, microtransactions where they are charging you real money to change your character's hair color, even if you've already purchased it. Already purchased the hair color. Did that pop up? I don't think that popped up. Did it? I don't think that it did. Oh, it did. All right. Thank you so much for the $3 donation, Frank. I very much so appreciate it. I know you love the Stadia. It's fake. It's fake. Frank, the Google Stadia doesn't even exist. It's all a lie. It's a complete lie. And I also wanted to discuss some Star Wars news and some news surrounding the last movie. How much of a failure it was? No. And some news about Palpatine actually being a clone. And I'm actually slightly confused about some of the discussions around it. So those are the topics we are going to discuss tonight. But before we get into them, hello everyone. How are you guys doing? I hope that you are all having a good night. Welcome. Final Fantasy VII demo. Oh yes, the Final Fantasy VII remake demo came out today. I've heard that people have really enjoyed it, that it's really good. It's about an hour long. I think it's an hour long, or it's a mission. I myself have not played it. I have downloaded it. I am going to play it after the live stream probably, or tonight. But I've heard really good things about it so far. I've heard that people are really enjoying it. Obviously, I don't really like to play demos, honestly, just because usually demos are too short. They're really only like 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes long, but this one is pretty long. I've seen people play about an hour of it, so I'm actually going to try this demo. Shocker. I almost never play demos. I would rather just jump into it head first. Stadia is the future. Is it really, though? Stadia hits the grave faster than the Wii U. I mean, the Stadia, honestly, it's pretty much dead at this point. From what I've heard, is nothing, honestly. I really haven't heard much about the Stadia lately. Besides what I'm talking about, which are like the hit and miss, very few articles that there are. There hasn't been a lot of like YouTubers using it or playing it or showing it off. And I think that we all know why. It's because it's a scam. Toss a coin to your Witcher. Yes, toss a coin to your Witcher, you guys. It's appreciated. Stadia will live longer than the PlayStation Vita. I mean, the PlayStation Vita had an okay run, I think. I mean, I don't think that it had a awful run. How long did the Vita, like, live? I guess. I mean, a Stadia, at least from what I would say, was really kind of dead on arrival. I mean, they said a couple of months after, I think that we discussed it last, like, a month and a half ago, they sold roughly, like, 500,000, like, units or bundles, and that's really not that good. Hello, Alpha Nerd. I hope that your night's going well. Hello, Leon, Frank, Belmont, Grim. Vita still, hello kitty. Vita still lives, modding tons of games in Japan for it. Well, yeah, I mean, so there are still games like slowly releasing for it in like Japan, and I mean, I see a lot of people that still talk about their Vitas and that still like use their Vitas. I don't know, I feel like I don't see that a lot with the Wii U. I feel like with the Wii U, a lot of people just really don't ever talk about it or use it. I mean, I look at like video game channels and retro channels, they really don't talk about it anymore. Whereas they still talk about things like the Vita because there's those Japanese games. I think Sony just discontinued the Vita last year. Yeah, they just discontinued it last year, but it really didn't have a lot of like media attention over the past couple of years. Just the media attention did kind of die out for it, unfortunately. I heard a meower. Yeah, I have a meower. That's for sure. Before we start the live stream though, we already have started it. But before we get into the discussions, I did want to talk to you guys. So the last live stream, I had many problems with my microphone, and some of you were very generous and did donate towards a new microphone. So I am using it, and I have used it today's video and yesterday's video, but I did pick up the Yeti X. So I just wanted to thank you guys again for your donations. Last live stream, I did post some pictures about it in Discord and whatnot. I decided to go for the upgraded model of the base Yeti that I had previously. So I just wanted to thank you guys again for your donations and for dealing with the last live stream. It was a problem. I started it, microphone wasn't working, took me an hour to fidget with it, but now I have a new microphone. I haven't played with the volume a ton. I mean, it sounds okay, like, out of the box, and I haven't really played with it that much, but I know that there's, like, all different kind of effects that I will be playing with in the future. But I did want to just thank you guys again. I know a lot of you guys had donated on and off stream, and I really do appreciate it. How long do you guys think the Switch will be around? I actually think that the Switch will be around for a very long time. I don't know how long, but I do honestly think that the Switch is going to be around for a long time. I mean, we see, before we get into the Google thing, we've seen with like Nintendo, they'll start with like a base model and you see how many versions of it they'll make. I mean, look at the DS. We had the Nintendo DS, the 2DS, the 3DS. We have like the DS Lite, and then we had the DS like XL, and they made so many versions of it. I think that that's what they're going to do with the Switch, until they can probably until they finally decide that like the end of the Switch is near. I think that it's going to last for quite a long time, and I'm okay with that. I'm definitely okay with that. It's false advertising. The box says blue, but clearly says black. Well, technically, it also has a sticker that says black, so, I mean, technically, not false advertising. Alright, you guys, I think that I honestly believe that all games will eventually be streamed. Stadia is just the first to fail at it, but someone had to open the window. I agree with that concept, because Google was kind of the first one to push this out. I think a big problem was the marketing. They really didn't have a lot of good marketing, in my opinion. To me, they also didn't have a lot of features day one that they said that they were going to have. I mean, like a month before it released, they said, oh, we're going to have all of these features at a later date. And I think that if they had launched it with most of the features that they had talked about that were originally supposed to be part of it, that they're slowly like inching in now, I think that it would have done a lot better than it has now. Alright, you guys, so the first topic we are going to discuss is Google Stadia. I've talked about the Stadia so many times on the channel, but I've discussed it because even though I wasn't going to purchase it, even though like I own an Xbox One X, I own a PlayStation 4 Pro, I own a fairly high-end PC, I own a Nintendo Switch, this still was a product that I was interested in. It's not something for me, and it's not something that ever really appealed to me. I was still interested in it because I am someone that firmly believes that gaming should be easier in a sense. You shouldn't have to have such a high buy-in price. Video games, $60 is a lot for a lot of titles, but I thought that Stadia was going to be very different. I personally thought because it was like all digital, they would have the games at like half off, 3/4 off, 75% off. Like they would actually have good deals, good prices, competitive prices. But they really didn't do that. And unfortunately, we have like problems with like the Chromecast Ultras overheating and people losing their data and like connections being awful. Like we see the data rates that this thing requires. I thought that maybe it would have been a lot different, but unfortunately, it hasn't turned out to be the very best, like no one ever was. Google's ambitions push into gaming is floundering, and it's due largely to too few games on its Stadia platform, and here's why developers have held back. Now, just by this headline, I would agree with this. A huge problem, again, for me was the fact that Stadia did come into kind of the market back in November with a few games. But we're talking about like Mortal Kombat 11, a game at that point when Stadia launched was like $25 to $30 at like GameStop used. But they were charging $60 for it. We saw like all of these games that, yes, are okay games at full $60 prices, which isn't going to sell to 90% of people. Last November, Google finally launched a major gaming platform that was in development for years, Google Stadia. They actually haven't talked about the timeline of how long Stadia has been in development, and I personally think that they rushed Stadia out. We obviously don't have a lot of evidence to this. They haven't given us a solid timeline of how long they were developing it and planning it and how long they were talking to developers. But just because, now this may seem small, but because nothing was branded properly, like the Chromecasts weren't branded properly, you know, there was such few games on the Stadia, I personally think that it was a very rushed and very last minute project. Instead of having to buy games on disc or download them from a digital store, even though you do, Stadia users stream games over the internet. You still need to buy them though. For customers willing to pay $130 for the Premier Edition. I don't think that the buy-in for this was an awful price. $130, you're able to play, you know, high quality AAA titles. I don't think that $130 is awful to ask, but when you are charging like, what is it, $10 or $15 per month for the service, for like the Premier service or the Pro Edition, when you're charging people full prices for these games, when you're charging people $70 for a controller and $60 for a replacement Chromecast that overheats fairly easily, doesn't seem that great. But the platform's launch was rocky at best, with missing features and a paltry games library. Months later, Stadia's game library still remains sparse. After years of development and hype, Google's long-rumored push into video games arrived last November with the launch of Google Stadia. Years of development, okay. Years of hype? Have I been living under a rock? Because I feel like the only hype that's existed for Stadia was in like maybe 6 months before it launched. Because we hadn't even heard about it before that. Am I going crazy? Because the first time they really unveiled Stadia was in June, and then it launched in November? Questionable. Google Stadia isn't a game console, nor is it a game platform. Really, it's a digital storefront run by Google where you can buy individual games. That's a storefront. Yeah, I mean, I'd call it a game platform, but it's a hugely ambitious new platform, and it is aimed to be the Netflix of gaming. No, it's not. It's not aimed to be the Netflix of gaming, because with Netflix, you just pay a monthly fee, and then you are able to access all of these games. Like Netflix, you're able to just pay the monthly subscription and access these, you know, these titles, these TV shows. Obviously, with something like a game platform like Stadia, yes, you're going to have a buy-in, you're going to have to buy like a controller, and you're going to have to buy the Chromecast Ultra. Besides those things, I would more say the Xbox Game Pass is more of a Netflix for gaming, because you pay the monthly fee and you can play all of the games that are available. And you can play them on multiple platforms, your Xbox console or PC. But maybe that's me overthinking it a little bit. What makes Stadia so ambitious? Rather than downloading games or playing them off of Blu-ray discs, Stadia streams games to you wherever you are, like Netflix streams movies and TV shows. Okay. It's such a big deal, in fact, that the Google CEO himself introduced Stadia back in March 2019. Okay, so March, still the same year. I said June, March, still the same year that it launched, not years of hype. At the annual GDC in San Francisco, which they actually canceled GDC this year because of the coronavirus. However, 4 months after Stadia's launch, the service is still extremely light on games. Just 28 titles. This article was written yesterday. 28 titles? That's bullshit. I would never invest hundreds of dollars into a platform with just 28 titles. Why would you do that? I understand that it's portable and it takes no room and it's convenient, but 28 titles? Jeez. Google says another 120 games are scheduled to hit Stadia this year, including some big upcoming blockbusters like Doom Eternal and Cyberpunk 2077. Yes, it's great that they want to offer more games. Ooh, 120 games. But if we're looking at 120 games throughout 12 months, that's not good. I'm just gonna be honest. Imagine how many games launch a month on every platform, Xbox, PlayStation, PC, Nintendo. I mean, imagine, just like in the United States, imagine how many games launch because we have indie games, we have AAA games. It's a lot more than what they want to put out in a year. But where are the dozens of indie hits that helped bolster the libraries of Sony's PlayStation 4, Microsoft's Xbox One, and the Nintendo Switch? Where are games like Bloodstained, Shovel Knight, Dead Cells, and Untitled Goose Game, the blockbuster indie games that sell millions of copies and inspire sequels? Yes, where are they? Nowhere to be found. These games have become critical to the success of any new game platform, yet, of the 28 games currently available on Stadia, just 4 fall into the indie category. I think that's bullshit. I think that they should offer many more indie games. Even if they don't expect them to make a lot of money, indie games are so important to the health of systems and to new platforms. And I definitely think that more indie developers deserve a spot in or on the Stadia, in the storefront on the Stadia. You guys understand what I mean. We were approached by the Stadia team, one prominent indie developer told me. Usually with that kind of thing, they lead with some kind of different offer that would give you an incentive to go with them, but the incentive was kind of non-existent, they said. That's the short of it. It's a statement we heard echoed by several prominent indie developers and 2 publishing executives we spoke with for this piece. Yeah, I would ask that. If you are a developer, you deserve these incentives. If they want to make your game an exclusive to the Stadia, you need that incentive. And it definitely wasn't there. It's that there isn't enough money there, one of the publishing executives we spoke with said. The offer was apparently so low that it wasn't even part of the conversation. The incentive isn't solely financial, but it's the main part of the equation. Obviously, that's the money part of the incentive for especially indie developers is huge. And yes, when you only have 28 games, you would maybe think that these indie developers might accept a little bit less money because they have, there's only 28 games to scroll through. Most people that are looking on Stadia are going to pass your game and go, oh, what's this game? It's kind of free advertising in a sense, but if the Stadia is not selling any games, then it's pointless and you got nothing out of it. When we were looking at these types of deals, another prominent indie developer said, we're looking at, is this enough money where we have the resources to make what we want, or is this an exclusivity deal that gives us security? Each of the people we spoke with who asked to be granted anonymity due to ongoing employment in the video game industry echoed this sentiment and said that Google simply wasn't offering enough money in addition to several other concerns. There are platforms you want to be on because they have an audience and you want to reach that audience, one developer said. That's what Steam is, or that's what the Nintendo Switch is. They have big groups on their platforms and you want to be able to go to those groups so they can play your games. But Stadia doesn't have a large audience to reach, at least not yet, so Google must create the incentive for developers. And the people we spoke with said, outside of money, that there wasn't much reason to put their games on Stadia. You would think that if Google is serious about actually making this platform work and successful, that they would kind of just take the loss, because nothing starts out and is amazing. We're talking about Google here. We're talking about $1 billion company. They can spare a little bit in, this section of another project. If they really wanted to go all in and expected it to make money, you would think that they would, give these developers what they deserve to get games on their platform. If you could see yourself getting into a long-term relationship with Google, one developer said, but with Google's history, I don't even know if they're working on Stadia in a year. That wouldn't be something crazy that Google does. It's within their track record. So basically, the article just goes on to discuss kind of how Google obviously isn't offering developers enough. They're not giving enough to you as a consumer. And to me personally, I wouldn't ever give up, my PC or my Xbox or my PlayStation or my Switch. I would not give up even one of them to try Stadia because I am so unconfident in it. Obviously, Google has a track record with some of their past projects, but it just truly sounds like Google wasn't all in with this decision and just with this product. It's March. Obviously, there's still a lot of room for this to hopefully grow. I mean, I would hope that Google can grow this into something big and something good. I don't want things like this to just fail. But there's no draw for me as someone that is almost would give anything in the gaming industry a chance. But that's all that I had to discuss with Google. Let me read all of your thoughts on it before we go to the next topic. Google probably already knew Stadia was going to be a failure from the start, simply testing the waters. That's actually why I personally think that this was rushed, because I think that they knew that it wasn't going to be something like, it wasn't going to be a Nintendo Switch launch or an Xbox launch or a PlayStation launch. That's why I think that maybe they came up with it like a year before they launched it, and they just kind of decided, you know what, we're just going to throw a little bit of money into this. We're just going to hope that we break even, and maybe it blows up. Maybe people absolutely love it, but it just doesn't seem like it's working out for them. Isn't this just another case of, hey, anyone can do it, so let's do it too, but without our money? I mean, exactly. Every company thinks that, oh, we can make an Xbox, we can make a PlayStation, we can make this digital platform storefront and be like a little bit edgy with it. Like, make it so it's not like an actual console, make it so it's portable. And I do like the aspect of Stadia where you can play it on all of your like Google devices. You can play it on your PC, you can play it on a phone, you can strap it into your TV. I do like these things, but I just think that it was very poorly executed. If it dies, it dies. It's unfortunate about Stadia because I would love to be able to say to people that maybe are casual gamers that don't want to spend $500 on a system, hey, just try Stadia. You know what? It's $130 for the base package. It is a little bit steep, but there's great game deals. It's portable. It's accessible. I would love to be able to say that, but there's no games on the system. It's a fairly high buy-in price for what's offered. And you have to pay for so much internet, it's not even worth it. I mean, have you guys seen the data caps on Stadia? Yeah, not me, thank you. Not me, thank you. Who seriously takes Google seriously? I would love to take Google seriously. I mean, they're a company that's worth how much freaking money? You would think that if you would take any company seriously, it would be one like Google, but apparently that's ridiculous. Why would we ever take a company like Google seriously? All right, you guys, I think that we will move on to the next topic in just a second. Remember when Google was simply just a search engine? Yeah, remember those days, you guys? Whew. They used to be the little guys. Google equals the CIA. Yeah. All right, the next topic we are going to discuss is Star Trek. Simon Pegg on Star Trek. We've lost momentum. This headline to me is so freaking disappointing to hear, because when you're talking about people affiliated with projects or, actors affiliated with companies, you don't want to see the actors and the people part of these projects say, we've all lost momentum. It's just so disappointing to hear. And even though I'm not a fan of Discovery, Picard it's okay. Obviously, I want to see the rest of it. I don't want Star Trek to fail. I don't want everyone to just stop watching Star Trek and them to not make anything titled Star Trek anymore. Star Trek actor Simon Pegg, who plays Scotty, in the J.J. Abrams produced Star Trek films, provided an update on the future of the film franchise. There have been a lot of rumors over the past, 2 years? Like, the past year has been really intense with rumors about, all these actors and, how Chris Pine wasn't going to come back because, he wasn't being offered enough money, and then, there were producers and writers dropping out left and right, and there's been a lot with this series of Star Trek films in general. In a wide-ranging interview with Games Radar, Pegg provided an update with the future of Star Trek films as well as a little bit of a post-mortem on the previous films. When asked what the latest was on a possible sequel to Star Trek Beyond, Pegg answered, "I don't know. The fact is, Star Trek movies don't make the Marvel amount of money like an Avengers or, Captain Marvel. They make maybe $500 million at most, and to make one now on the scale they've set for themselves is about $200 million. You have to make 3 times that to make a profit. Star Trek Beyond only grossed $335.8 million worldwide with a production budget of $185 million. The Numbers is a website, reports the worldwide gross only made 1.8 times its production budget. Now, to people like me and you, $500 million is a shit ton of money. Even $200 million, $200 is a shit ton, guys. Oh yeah. Guys, I've never seen $200 in my life. $185 million is a lot of money, but to these companies, that's just like a flick of the wrist to them. They could care less. This is like chump change to them. In fact, none of the Star Trek films makes 3 times its production budget. The first Star Trek film grossed $386.8 million worldwide with a $140 million production budget. Oh my goodness, these numbers screwing me up. Yeah, $200, now we're breaking the bank. Guys, I've never seen $200 in my life. The worldwide gross was 2.8 times the production budget. Star Trek Into Darkness's worldwide gross was at $467.3 million off of a $190 million production budget. Its worldwide box office was 2.5 times the production budget. Obviously, these numbers are good. They sound good to at least me and you. Making 2 times what you put into it, making 3 times what you put into it. It sounds great to us, but these companies want 8 times, 10 times what they put into it to make back from it. Pegg then detailed some of the problems Star Trek Beyond had with its marketing. I don't feel like the last one. They didn't really take advantage of the 50th anniversary. The regiment at the time dropped the ball on the promo for the film. That is huge. When you have something like Star Trek and you're celebrating the 50th anniversary, using something like that to your marketing advantage is freaking huge. And they didn't do that. And we've lost momentum. I think losing Anton was a huge blow to our little family. And our enthusiasm to do another one might have been affected by that, so I don't know. No, I don't know anything about it. I think Noah Hawley's been hired to write something for Star Trek, which is very exciting because he's a brilliant writer and always creates interesting stuff. Peg even indicated that he didn't think that the current cast of Star Trek would even be involved in the rumored Harley project. That's disappointing to hear. Peg stated, "Whether or not we are involved in that, I don't know. I don't think so." So it really sounds like a lot of the actors themselves don't have that excitement anymore, and that can be a huge blow to a project as well, because when an actor, or let's say the main cast of actors, don't care about the project, and they're like moping and groping in a sense over having to play that part, they're going to want more money, and then it's going to be even more difficult to get them to be part of the project, and that can be huge by itself. If you're trying to ring up these actors, they've got other projects, they're not interested in the project, it's going to be a big problem to the movie in general, which is disappointing to hear. It does sound like there are still quite a few actors part of it that do care about it. Chris Pine said, he would come back. It does sound like Peg would come back if they made it. It does sound like he is still interested in it. But if they can't get like most of those main actors to return, it could be a really big problem. Following Star Trek Beyond, both Chris Pine and Chris Hemsworth were reported to have dropped out of the film due to a dispute with their pay. Now, since this, Chris Pine has actually said that he probably would come back, but Chris Hemsworth, obviously, he wouldn't come back. That report also indicated that Paramount was attempting to stick to a budget due to Star Trek Beyond's meager $343 million worldwide gross compared to its production budget. They picked a lot of high-paying actors for this, which isn't bad. Obviously, they expected maybe the series and the movies to do a little bit better than they did, but when you're picking actors like Chris Pine and Chris Hemsworth, a lot of your budget is going to go to just those actors themselves. Obviously, we look at something like Picard. Where 90%, well, I don't want to say 90%, but where most of the budget is going. Patrick Stewart is the main actor, but he's also a producer. He's a showrunner. He's all of these things. Imagine how much of a chunk of change he's getting from that. But that's all that we really had to discuss. I would like to, I don't know, it's difficult to say because I don't like a lot of what J.J. Abrams has created, but I would like to see more with the Kelvin universe, with the J.J. Abrams produced Star Trek films. I wouldn't mind that. A big problem for me right now is the fact that we have so much Star Trek going on. Even though I would like to see more of these stories, I would like them to hold off, and I would like the J.J. Abrams to be done. Because we've talked about it. We have Discovery going on. We have Picard going on. Those are shows that they plan on continuing. There's also talk about 3 other shows and a movie they're making, like a teen-based show and like a mom-based show. They're making, like another type of Picard Discovery show. They're also in talks of doing another movie that is aside from this. There's a lot of Star Trek going on right now. And while I do really love Star Trek, I just don't want them to overdo it. I've talked about this many times. It's like the Marvel stuff. I think that people are going to get worn out with superheroes. I mean, looking at Marvel by themselves, or let's look at DC as well. We have like the Marvel movies, DC movies. We have like the CW shows. We have the spin-off shows of like Gotham. We have the Disney Plus shows, which have to tie in directly to the movies. I think that all of this combined is going to really wear people out, and I feel like it's going to happen with Star Trek, and it's going to happen faster because they're talking about so many series and movies with Star Trek. So there's no confirmation of, the universe in the series of J.J. Abrams films being canceled, but there's also talk that, there is a writer possibly working on a project. In the end, I guess we'll have to see. Hey, I wouldn't mind them continuing it, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to happen. I think they just have too many other projects going on. Teen and mom aren't the demographics I think of when I think of Star Trek. Exactly. They said that they want to make like a Starfleet Academy show, which is based on like, younger audiences. They practically said that they want younger teens and like wine moms, like stay-at-home moms, basically to watch that show. I don't think that's going to work at all. Star Trek is is a complicated universe and a complicated franchise in general to understand. Yes, I do think that it can be dulled and dumbed down for normal TV watchers and normal moviegoers, but I think that they would have to tone it down so much that they wouldn't have that base and core audience of Star Trek fans, and I think that they do rely on them. So, ooh. Yeah, Degrassi in space, basically, BK, that's what it is. Oversaturation, yes, Doa. It's all oversaturation. I do think that they could balance it properly. I do think maybe they should ditch Discovery, keep Picard. Unfortunately, William Shatner said that there's no plans for, a Kirk show like Picard. I would love that. Just in case you guys don't know, Kirk is my favorite. Kirk is a man whore, and I love it. But, with how many projects they have going, I think that they should definitely drop a couple of them and, maybe add a couple new ones in. Get rid of Discovery, though. Please, thank you. When I think of Star Trek, I think of people's eyes getting ripped and cut out. Good times. Oh, yeah, that sounds like a freaking good time, Leon. Definitely sounds great. A Kirk show would basically be Brazzers. I mean, I would be okay with that. I mean, Kirk is great. Kirk is a man whore, and I love it. Give me that toxic masculinity. I would much rather have that toxic masculinity than Discovery or, like a teen-based show. Oh man, my woman is showing. Whew. Kirk. Love it. Is Picard really that bad? I have been waiting for this series to end so I can watch all of it at once. Okay, so before we move on to the next topic, Kirk is like a 6 out of 10 because it does have really good moments. It has some really amazing characters in it. They brought a lot of those famous characters and actors back. I really do like that part. So I'm just going to say the first episode of Picard literally should have been its own season. It's how I feel with Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, the last season should have been 2 more seasons. I think that Picard, the first episode, literally should have been its own season because it was so damn rushed. It's good. Don't get me wrong. Picard is okay, but it's not amazing. And to me, at least, it has a very different, vibe than other Star Trek series. I don't hate it. I just feel like the story is way too rushed and cram-packed into each other, unfortunately. Picard isn't bad, it's just not Star Trek. I don't know, because I do feel like at some points it really is Star Trek, but there are a lot of parts that feel very bizarre. Better than yes, Picard is better than Discovery. I personally do think that Discovery has some parts to it that are good. I just overall wouldn't want to watch it a second time. Picard, I do think that I would rewatch. And I would recommend to people maybe to watch. I don't know how it ends. So in 2 weeks when it ends in 2 weeks, I believe, because there's 2 more episodes, I think. When it ends in 2 weeks, we'll have a full discussion and a rant. It's like a 6 out of 10 right now. $5 says Vara has a Kirk poster above her bed right next to her Geralt poster. Ooh, baby. And you know who's... Okay, so Geralt is in the middle, and on the left is Kirk, but on the right is Val Kilmer from Batman. Batman Val Kilmer. Oh, baby. Those are the posters, that I look at every night. Got some fine toxic masculinity there. That's what I dream about. Sorry, Picard. You got old. Hey. Yes, Val Kilmer was the best Batman, fight me. Hey, he was at least the most attractive one. Alright. Before I reveal any more secrets, why don't we move on to another topic? Why don't we talk about some good old Star Wars? Star Trek and Star Wars, back to back, baby. Back to back. Oh boy. Oh boy, we've got some Palpatine news, which I'm surprised at, and maybe not for the reasons that you guys would assume. Also, why do we have an IBM ad? IBM. Nice. I like it. Val Kilmer was Val Kilmer was the best. Honestly, I actually really liked the, what's the kid's name in Gotham? The Gotham TV show? He was a great Bruce. He obviously depicted a very young Bruce that we haven't seen many times, but he was great. Yeah, Mad Mardigan, he's cool, but if, you know, in the bat suit, yes. Kirk, Henry Cavill as Geralt, and Val Kilmer as Batman. That's the holy trinity for me. Alright, now we are going to be discussing Star Wars. We now know that Palpatine was a clone in Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. I'm gonna read the article first, and then tell you guys my opinion on this. Because I think that's the best way to go about it. The novelization explaining everything the movie didn't will be available for purchase at a store near you. First of all, they're releasing the novel. Should I buy the novel? It's probably like $15. If one of you guys donates $5, I'll pay the rest. I'll put a hole in my pocket. It's practically a Rey and Ben Solo fan fiction. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker left many lingering questions. Specifically, how did Emperor Palpatine survive in Return of the Jedi? Those loose ends, like Finn's confession of Force sensitivity to Rey, are slowly being sewn up. Enter Disney with a novelization of The Rise of Skywalker. Written by Star Wars universe writer Ray Carson, the novel explains the Emperor's spirit was transferred into a clone of his body. In Return of the Jedi, Darth Vader throws Palpatine down a reactor shaft after the Emperor tortures his son Luke Skywalker. Wait, what? He did what? Imagine reading this and, like, not being like, what? When did this happen? Biggest facepalm ever. On the planet of Exegol, where Kylo Ren spoilers, by the way. Spoilers if you haven't seen this bad movie. On the planet of Exegol, where Kylo Ren encounters Palpatine at the beginning of The Rise of Skywalker, he inspects all that machinery. According to the book, he recognizes it from his studies of the Clone Wars. Hell yeah, Clone Wars. Let's do it nice. All the vials were empty of liquid save one, which was nearly depleted. Kylo peered closer. He'd seen this apparatus before too, where he'd studied the Clone Wars as a boy. The liquid flowing into the living nightmare before him was fighting a losing battle to sustain the Emperor's putrid flesh. Ren then realizes the clone body is housing the Emperor's actual spirit, but the body won't last. What could you give me? Kylo asked. Emperor Palpatine lived. After a fashion, Kylo could feel in his very bones that his clone body sheltered the Emperor's actual spirit. Again, actual spirit. It was an imperfect vessel, though, unable to contain his immense power. It couldn't last much longer. So that is the main part of the novel that people are really discussing. The fact that Palpatine was a clone in The Rise of Skywalker. You guys didn't know that? Okay, so I feel like if you're shocked by this, you don't... Did you pay attention? I'm not trying to, fight anyone here. But literally, I watched this movie and was like, oh, it's a clone. When are they gonna explain the clone-ness? And they didn't. And I was like, oh. So people are just gonna assume that he's not a clone? Didn't you all know that he was a clone? I'm not trying to, toot my own horn here and say, I'm a Star Wars expert. But it's pretty damn easy to figure out that he was a clone. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I just, caught onto it. But I feel like when it comes to Palpatine, there were rumors about him being... No? You guys didn't get the 411? Because I saw this movie and instantly was like, that's obviously a clone of Palpatine. There's no damn way that that's, like, actual Palpatine. At least from, like, seeing the other movies and then kind of going back and watching this, I just felt like it was kind of obvious that it was a clone. Yeah, so that is a good point, Drew. The extended universe did already kind of discuss light and shed light on Palpatine's clones. Obviously, you know, extended universe stuff is tricky because we don't know what's canon, what's not, like what Disney is using. Unfortunately, with these movies, Disney just kind of used whatever the heck they wanted without it making sense in a way, because, like, things that they did in movie 3, maybe they didn't do in movie 1 or of the sequel trilogy. And a lot of it felt very, very just odd in my opinion. Like, things happened and it was like, why didn't that happen in the last movie then when this situation happened? It just felt odd. But people are talking about Palpatine like, oh my gosh, Palpatine's a clone. Didn't you guys know that? I'm not sure. I guess I picked up on the hints, like, you know, I do know some of the EU, the extended universe, and, like, some of, like, the backup plans that Palpatine and a lot of other big Sith had, you know, with clones and things like that. I felt like during the movie, it was supposed to be obvious that he was a clone. Like, maybe. It was just me. I've done a lot of, I do want to preface this by saying I have done a lot of reading of the novels and the books and things that aren't canon now, that it's difficult because some of them are canon, some of them aren't. Disney is very kind of pick and choose with what they're paying for and what they're saying is canon. But I feel like a big part of Palpatine was the fact that he did have clones, and I felt like that was pretty obvious to a lot of people. To me, this now seems like, wow, if you aren't a fan of Star Wars, or maybe you haven't read the novels, because you can be a fan and not read the novels, obviously. If you haven't read the novels or even some of the comic series, wow, they really didn't hit the mark with this explanation, to the point where you have to read a book to understand a big plot in the movie, because I feel as though maybe if they had shown maybe other clones of Palpatine that he had, maybe in, like, test tubes or whatever, people would have understood it and it would have been more shocking seeing it, like, oh my gosh, that's a Palpatine clone, like, how many clones does he have? But I do agree with Grimm. He shouldn't have even been in this movie in the first place. This was like a very last-minute decision. It felt very rushed. It felt very forced. It felt like they didn't have any marketing because people don't like Rey, and people weren't really loving Kylo. And they couldn't market Han Solo. They couldn't really market Luke any more than they couldn't market Leia. They needed that name to throw in there to market. From, like, the original trilogies and, like, the prequel trilogies. They needed a name, and this was the best name that they could come up with. I honestly thought that they were going to do something with the Darth Vader and Anakin, because we've seen, like, Kylo's obsession with Darth Vader and, like, the obsession with, like, his mask and his armor and, like, all of his teachings. I expected it to be that route, that it was, like, a Darth Vader clone. The Palpatine was okay, but it was lame in a way because it was rushed and it was forced and it felt like, why are you here? Literally. Why? And it doesn't even explain, like, how he came to be, because, like, you had to play Fortnite to see, like, the original holo message that was supposed to be between movies 2 and movies 3, between The Last Jedi and, obviously, The Rise of Skywalker. So that's all that I wanted to discuss. I was a little bit shocked that people didn't know that he was a clone. But I guess they just really did a freaking poor job of explaining it. I haven't rewatched this movie since the first time that I saw it, but I actually am going to be rewatching it soon. So I guess I'll kind of look deeper for more hints to see how awful and how poorly it really was done. They already came out and admitted that they had no plans and simply made shit up for each film. And yeah, and that's so disappointing to me. We're talking about Star Wars here. We're not talking about some, like, rinky-dink, like, lame-ass franchise. We're freaking talking about Star Wars. Just make something good. It's not that hard. Don't kill off your main characters. Write them as the heroes. Pew pew. Heroes versus villains. You know, some laser beams, some lightsabers, some blaster pistols, maybe a couple of explosions, a couple TIE fighters, or, you know, a couple of these ships that are literally the sizes of, like, freaking New York. And just have some people die, have some people live. It doesn't have to be that hard. Just don't kill off the good characters. Let them live. I get that with going from, you know, The Last Jedi to The Rise of Skywalker, it was difficult because Carrie Fisher did pass away. They did say they had bigger plans for her character in number 3. She was supposed to kind of be like the uprising of, like, Ben, and, like, she was supposed to redeem him in a sense. But they killed off all of the other good characters. And for nothing. Just to have it end with a girl stealing their identity. After they all died, you know, what does it matter? You know, there's no one there to defend themselves, so I guess identity theft is real, you guys. Kathleen Kennedy is in no relation to me. Leon, I swear, if you're Kathleen Kennedy's son, I'm banning you from this chat. I'm banning you. I love the easy mode description. It's so easy, though. It's so easy to write Star Wars. You take the heroes, you take the villains, you did some pew-pew, maybe some explosions, maybe some, like, cool battles with all of these ships that are huge. Then you have, you need a dramatic moment. Star Wars movies need this dramatic moment, okay? You need, like, the I am your father, or, like, I'm your... Okay. Let me just say this really quickly before we move to the last topic of the night. I expected the whole thing to be Ben Solo and Rey were brother and sister, like, legitimately brother and sister. I thought they were based off of Jason and Jania Solo from the extended universe. I thought that's what they were going with. Like, this is why they have this connection. Not like, ooh, smooch, smooch. Let's make it a fan fiction, and so people can write some sex scenes online. Like, maybe that'll get them to buy more merchandise. No. I thought that they were legitimately going to be brother and sister, like how they kind of were based off of from the books. And I was going to be hyped. I was so excited. I'm like, yes, I don't care how bad these characters are. They're brother and sister. I can't wait for, like, that dramatic moment. And they didn't give it to me. And I'm very disappointed. I thought we were going to have, like, another brother and sister kiss and then find out that they were brother and sister. I mean, it is 2020. What do I expect? But I expected something maybe a little bit different. Just a little bit. I was left very disappointed, my friends. Very disappointed. Not that I want brother and sisters kissing, but it's Star Wars. We need something dramatic. You know. I expected Luke to win, not those other two sissies. Yeah. It's too bad that Luke didn't win. Alright, so the last topic of the night is Dead or Alive 6. I have discussed Dead or Alive 6 quite a few times on the channel now. Unfortunately, this game has had a lot of problems and received a lot of bad attention due to some of the bad situations that have surrounded this game. First of all, we had Yohei Shimbori talk about, like, oh, we're toning down some of the female characters to appeal more to the female audience that exists surrounding the game. And then they said, no, that was it wasn't translated properly. It was a mistranslation. That's not right. But then he came back and said it again. And also with Dead or Alive 6, a big problem has really been microtransactions. So there's been a lot of microtransactions in this game. There's like $3,000 worth of them in the game itself. And of course, we've had a lot of the censorship problems surrounding Dead or Alive 6. But now it has gotten to another level of ridiculous. Another fucking level. Dead or Alive 6 is charging players now to change their hair color. But why? Are you this desperate for the few sales that you can get out of this? Are you so damn desperate? Are you so damn desperate? Well, I love this Kotaku article. I love how this starts. Well, Here's some bullshit. Fighting game Dead or Alive 6 has, in a recent update, introduced a new form of microtransaction in which players are charged real money to change a character's hair color, then charged again to change it back. But why? The move went live in the Reset 1.60 update, whose big deal was that it was going to allow for all kinds of customization options, and is only an issue for PlayStation 4 users, not anyone playing on PC or Xbox. So I think that it is great when you offer people more options for customization. I think that that is really important. As someone that plays a lot of these games, I like to be able to customize. I like to be able to pick an outfit, maybe switch pieces in or out, customize it, change colors, make your character look a little bit more unique than the set, oh, you have 2 options, pick your option. But this is not what I and a lot of other people wanted when we said we wanted customization options. Every change costs the user a single premium ticket, which in real-world terms is $1. Amazingly, you're paying for the change, not an unlock. So if you want a character to go from brown to blonde and back to the exact same brown it was before, that is going to cost you $2. This is honestly, in my opinion, disgusting. I think that these things should be unlocks. So there actually is a feature in an EA game, of course, in Star Wars The Old Republic. Now, I play the MMO fairly often. It is a good MMO in my opinion. I do quite like it. They do this too, unfortunately, but it's a little bit different. So, unlocks, if you want to change your hair color or change your skin color, whatever it may be, it costs you 200 cartel coins, which you can buy 2,000 cartel coins for $10. But they actually allow you to earn cartel coins by actually playing the game. But in Dead or Alive 6, this isn't the case. It costs you premium tickets, which cost you $1. Now, I get it. Oh, $1. It's not that expensive. I can hear the criticisms now. Stop bitching, Vara. It's just $1. But it's not just $1. Because you have $1. And then you want to change it again. And that's another $1. Oh, and then maybe you want to change it back. That's another $1. It adds up. And obviously, if you're not someone that likes to play with customizations of characters, okay, that's perfectly fine. Maybe you don't like to do that. Maybe you only pay $5 for the customization in general, and then that's the only one that you use. But I'm someone that likes to really change up my outfits. I like to change up how my character looks and all of these things. That would be so freaking expensive to do on a normal basis. I personally think that, okay, if you are going to allow people to be able to customize their character, make a customization bundle. Now, if you do special outfits or all right, maybe not outfits because those cost different prices, but if you have maybe a hair customization bundle where you can pick new different exclusive hairstyles or colors, charge $5 and allow unlimited access to them. Maybe charge $10 for unlimited access for them. That is much more acceptable than $1, $1, $1, $1, because that shit adds up. And to me, this is absolutely ridiculous. You have milked your players for all you can. You have censored your game. You have censored these characters' outfits. You've toned them down to appeal to women, which as a woman, I think is a bullshit excuse. Don't use women as an excuse when that's not what you really mean. You see the microtransactions. There's $3,000 worth of microtransactions in this damn game. Why? I get that you need to make money. I am someone that is perfectly okay with developers putting microtransactions in their game when they are acceptable, when they're not outrageous, because developers do need to make money. I personally like the model of you have a game, you pay like $60, $50, $30, whatever it may be, you pay that base price, and then, you know, once every couple of months there's a big update, you pay $20 for the update. Then again, it comes out, $20 for the update. I am okay with those type of DLC microtransactions. I support those kinds. But this is absolutely ridiculous. $1 every time you want to change a small customization, and then you can't even go back. It's ridiculous. I don't support this. I have not played Dead or Alive 6 since it like came out. I played the free version when the free version came out like 2 months after the game launched. I was going to buy Dead or Alive 6 at launch, but after all of the statements by Yohei Shimbori, I as a female didn't want to support the game because he was saying we're toning down all of these things to appeal to the female audiences more, which I thought was bullshit. I'm not going to support that. He's made a lot of controversial statements for this game. We see the microtransactions. This amount of microtransactions is bullshit. I have not monetarily supported Dead or Alive 6 at all. Like, I have not bought any microtransactions, any characters, any customizations, any unlocks. I have not supported it, and I will not support a game like this. There are plenty of fighting games that deserve your money. Hell, go back to a previous Dead or Alive game. I mean, I'm sure that you guys can name plenty of fighting games in chat now. Like, there's Tekken 7. I play Tekken 7. I know that a lot of people don't like really Soul Calibur. It's a little bit iffy, but I like Soul Calibur. But yeah, Dead or Alive, more like Dead in the Water. Very disappointing. I'm very disappointed with the actions that have surrounded this game and the decisions that have surrounded this game, because I was interested in Dead or Alive 6, even Mortal Kombat 11. I love Mortal Kombat, and I thought that the story for Mortal Kombat 11 sounded badass. Like, you know, the old school versus the new school was freaking awesome. But again, I'm not going to support censorship, and I'm not going to support these awful monetization methods. So that's all that I had to discuss in tonight's live stream, you guys. Thank you for stopping by. I do appreciate it. I am going to go to the Q&A portion of the live stream now. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask them in chat. I do want to self-shill for a minute. I do want to thank you guys again for the donations for the microphone. I do very much so appreciate it. I hope it sounds like a good microphone. It seems awesome. I really do like it, and I'm very grateful that you guys are willing to donate when especially something breaks and I need help with that. If you guys do enjoy my content, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon. You can for just $1 a month. Obviously, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and give this live stream a like if you enjoy. And of course, if you do not, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way. I would wait for MK11 All-in-One Edition. I personally would too. Like, I think that Mortal Kombat 11 does have good gameplay from what I've played of it. I do think that the gameplay is good, honestly. But they toned down the females, said, oh, we want to work our way into the esports market. And I think that these are just excuses. Honestly, I think that it's such a bad excuse when you're saying it's for the females, when you have plenty of female players that would just use a different outfit, that don't want you to censor your game. In my opinion, it was really low of them to censor this game and also, you know, censor Mortal Kombat 11. I'm waiting for Twisted Metal 11. Yeah, that sounds great. I was going to get MK11, but they had to go censorious on all of us. Yeah, I actually had Mortal Kombat 11 pre-ordered because I was excited for it. I was excited for the story mode, but I unpre-ordered it, changed that shit, and I don't remember what I bought, but that money did go to a very different game that I don't remember which game it was now. But it definitely wasn't Mortal Kombat 11. I'll buy Mortal Kombat 11 when it's in a clearance bin for $5. It's really low, though, now. You can find Mortal Kombat 11 used for pretty cheap. Doa, thank you so much for the $56.34 donation. I do very much so appreciate it. I don't understand why that number, though. I get like 3, 4... 5, 6, but I don't know why it was $56.34, but thank you so much for the donation, my friend. I do very much so appreciate it. You are the top donator and the top dominator of the live stream. Thank you. I do appreciate it. So are you a Final Fantasy fan? I am a Final Fantasy fan. I actually have, I know, the website's, it's shilling, guys. The Final Fantasy VII Remake demo is out. I have not played the demo yet, but I actually do have it downloading right now. After the live stream, I probably will try out the Final Fantasy VII demo. I am fairly excited for it. It's not a game that I plan on purchasing at launch, and I have discussed this a few times, but I'm pretty disappointed with their marketing. It seems a little bit, iffy because it's part 1. Obviously, the parts are going to be, you know, tens of hours, like 30 hours, 20 hours, however many hours it's going to be, but it's part 1. It's not the Final Fantasy VII full remake, it's like part 1. They've said that they're planning on doing like 3 parts. I personally don't like that. Obviously, the games are very long. It's taken a lot of effort. I will wait for the game to go down in price, and then I will probably purchase it and play it. It's not that I'm not excited for it, but I really don't like playing games that are like multiple parts with years in between. When it comes closer to the time of the second part releasing, I'll probably purchase the first part and really play through it, but it's not a game that I personally plan on purchasing at launch, which, I mean, if you're planning to, hell yeah, like, that's awesome, like, I'm definitely going to watch footage of it, but it's a game that I'm not rushing into. I do not currently have it pre-ordered. I was donated a copy of Doom Eternal, which is pre-ordered, which I will be live streaming on launch. I do not currently have, what other games? Minecraft Dungeons is a game that I'm planning on playing. That will be out on Xbox Game Pass. Resident Evil 3, a game that I'm very excited for. What else? Trials of Mana is a game I'm considering live streaming. I haven't decided yet because it's going to be a very long game, but I am considering live streaming it, even if it's not a full playthrough. A lot of you guys have wanted to see me play it. You've asked, and Amazon's New World MMO. I do have a list on Patreon that is public, so you do not have to be a Dark Titan or a supporter to view the post. But I do currently have a post up with the games going into the future that I do plan on live streaming. Obviously, I am very happy to take suggestions. If there's a game that's not on this list that you guys would love to see me play, please feel free to let me know. I'm always up to suggestions, but these are games that I am planning on live streaming on launch. Just think of the next entries like a sequel. Yeah. What about retro games? So retro games are not on that list, but I am planning on playing some more retro games. I do believe on Thursday, most likely, I will be finishing up Super Metroid, that playthrough, and then I will ask you guys what you all want me to play next for the next retro game. But I do think that the next retro game will be Donkey Kong Country 2, I believe, is what you guys really wanted to see, but I will be taking suggestions for that. I am going to try to balance retro with, you know, AAA newer titles. Obviously, we do have Doom Eternal coming out in 2 weeks. Yes, 2 weeks it's coming out, so we're finishing Super Metroid this week, then we have like a week and a half. I'm not sure if I'll start a new retro game or if I will just stream something filler like a Modern Warfare or Overwatch stream or two until Doom Eternal does come out. But I am going to be balancing retro with newer games. When do you usually stream games? So Mondays/Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern are my discussion streams. Wednesdays, every other Wednesdays, we do a Magic the Gathering Titans table, which we are going to be, spoiler, setting up a video game Titans table, the vodcast, very soon. So that will be probably on a weekly basis, Titans table, one for Magic the Gathering and one for video games. And then usually Thursdays/Fridays, I do video games. Usually my schedule right now looks like Mondays, usually Mondays are a discussion stream, Wednesdays are Titans tables, and then Thursdays and Fridays are video games, but of course my schedule does change. I do post it in Discord for you guys when I'm going to be streaming. I do pre-schedule streams, but if I live stream, it is always at 8 p.m. or 7, it is usually at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern, so if you're always looking for a live stream from me, that's usually the times when I live stream. I am EST. Yes, Doom is a game that I'm very excited for. I'm not planning on live streaming my playthrough of Doom 2016 because I am actually going to be playing through that again. I don't have it on PC, so it would be difficult to live stream, but I do have to replay Doom 2016 before Eternal comes out because I am very excited for Doom Eternal. I definitely need to do some Doom warming up. I've been playing a lot of FPSs, so it shouldn't be too difficult, but I need to warm up a little bit. I love retro. I love retro as well. I love streaming retro games, and I really love playing retro games. I am taking suggestions. If you are not already part of the Discord, please make sure to join it. We do have a retro section where we can talk about the retro games that I will be playing next. If you guys have any suggestions for me. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. I don't plan on playing Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, at least on live stream, because I've asked, and a lot of people aren't they're interested in it, but I feel like there's other games, and obviously you guys donate quite a lot, and those donations go to video games and obviously some new equipment, but I can't buy like $60 games all the time unless it is donated to me, and there are other games that people want to see more than Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Who knows? It can always happen. Never say never. Who knows? But yeah, those are the lists of games that I have currently. Retro games, it's a little bit harder to make a list for just because there's so many different games to go through that I want to play. But please leave your suggestions in the retro chat in the Discord. So alright, you guys, I am going to end the live stream here. Thank you all so much for stopping by tonight. I do very much so appreciate it. If, again, you are not already part of the Discord, please make sure to join it. We are very active there. I let you guys know my stream schedule. We talk about new games that I'm streaming, interests that you guys have in the video game industry. Of course, if there's any topics you want to see me discuss on a discussion live stream, or of course in a video. If you are not already supporting me, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon. You can become a supporter for just $1 a month, but I will be in Discord if you all want to chat. So thank you guys so much for stopping by. I do very much so appreciate it, and have a fantastic night, everybody.